Hey, hey. Here we are, another edition of Sit Down at Uptown, man. To Sit Down at Uptown. Well, you know, I chop it up with all our comedians come rock the stage. I'm your host and owner of Uptown Comedy Corner, Angelo Sykes. And tonight, man, we got one of these guys from up top. You know, New Jersey's own, Mr. Rashaun Reese in the building. What's up, brother?
What's good, bro? How you feeling, man?
Appreciate it, man. I'm good, man. How's everything?
Everything good, man. Blessed, working. Just had a beautiful weekend with you guys, so nothing to complain about.
That's what's up. Health, that's number one.
Yes, sir.
So Rashaun, man, you know, welcome back to Uptown, man. You know what I mean? You've been rocking up here throughout the years, man, and so good to always have you back in the building, brother. How you like the new spot?
I love it. This is my actual second time, I think, here at this spot. And just love the energy, man. Love the way it's set up with the views and all that stuff. You know, the Atlanta crowd is always great, so you already know how that goes.
That's what's up.
Staff is always wonderful, all that good stuff, man.
Good deal, man. Oh, Rashaun, I always like to start these interviews, man, by taking a trip backwards, man. So let's sit back, man. Let's take a trip back, right? Let's talk about the young Rashaun Reese, man. Let's talk about the kid. Okay. You know what I mean? Let's talk about, you know, you originally from New Jersey, yep. Born and raised.
Born and raised. All
right. Well, let's talk about that kid, man. What was it like growing up, man? Your family life, school, things of that nature.
Family life for me is pretty cool, man. I was a only child.
Okay.
No father, raised by a single mother, grandmother. You know, that maybe that usual story you might hear sometime. My mom's well educated, retired principal. So I was raised well, as best as you could raise it. I guess a young man by yourself. We lived in the hood till I was about 14, and then we moved to the suburbs. I was a basketball player, so we moved to the suburbs. I could play ball. My mom's sacrificed a lot. We moved into a one-bedroom apartment. She had the bedroom. I had the living room. You know, and that's pretty much where everything started for me, you know, being able to see a different life growing up in the suburbs as opposed to growing up in the hood and seeing so much death and drugs and all that different and all that, you know, all those negative things. Okay. When I got a chance to go to Columbia High School in South Orange, Maplewood, New Jersey, that's when I got a chance to see people living in big houses and seeing lawns and seeing white folks and all the other good stuff, different types of animals, if you would say, you know. And that's kind of where it all started for me when things started to blossom as far as just being a good athlete and being that funny kid in high school, you know.
So, what kind of student were you? Seeing that mom's at what point at your age did she become the prince? She was a teacher, I'm assuming, at first?
That's a great question, man. I was actually a really good student until I got about 14.
Okay. Wait a minute, when you moved to the suburbs?
Yeah, that's when it got bad, man, because I was like a culture shock for me. The kids were a lot more advanced.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to say I don't think I was really applying myself to where I should have been, and just being a class clown and doing things I wasn't really supposed to be doing at that time, which I really didn't know that I would later on become a professional comedian. So, yeah, my grades kind of dipped at that point, and I was so good in sports, it kind of forced me to work on my schoolwork because if I didn't, you wouldn't be eligible to play. So then I went a little bit above a C average. I was able to play.
A little bit
True
above.
story. A little above a C average. That's it. Yeah.
So you were a class clown then?
100%.
Really? All right. Did you get in a lot of trouble for it, or
all the time?
Or did you use it to your advantage, or what?
It worked to my advantage sometimes, but most of the time it was a disadvantage. You know,
really? Because
teachers were like, you know, you can't do too much laughing and joking around and playing games. You know, school is not the place for that.
Right. So, seeing that your mother was in education, how'd that pan out with? And did she ever work at the same school that you went to?
Yeah, I went to my mother. Well, I went to a different school than where she worked at until I was about maybe 8 or 9. So 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, I went to school with her. Okay. So that's when I did very well because my mother's there on the premises. So it's like all the teachers, she would handpick my teachers for me and everything. Like, no, you're going to have Miss Grainer, you're going to have Miss Sneed, you're going to have Miss Jenkins. That was my 4th, 5th, and 6th grade teacher.
Really?
So it was different there. I had to really do the work. I had to maintain and do everything I needed to do because she was right there. She was one call away. So,
yeah. So then when you moved to the suburbs, you said it was a culture shock, man. Is there anything that stands out was the most shocking?
Shout out to Lauren Hill. I went to high school at Lauren Hill.
Word.
Went to high school at Lauren Hill.
Okay.
So he's a couple years older than me. But it was different. I mean, you go into a school where going to class was the thing to do. When I was coming up, you know, going to school in East Orange, was more of an urban area, I would go to class and people were like, yo, what the fuck is you doing? Like, we don't do that around here. And I'm like, what? They're like, yo, we cut class, we going to Charlie's and hang out. You know what I mean? That type of thing. But when I got to South Orange and Maplewood and I was in high school there, literally, when I first got there, I would be in the hallways, and I noticed I was in the hallways by myself. There was nobody to hang out with. Everybody was in class. Yeah, so that right there was a difference. I mean, the culture was different just in how they dressed.
Okay.
You know, all these kids' parents had money. I went to a really good suburban high school, so these kids were wearing Tommy Hilfiger, Polo, Nautica, all of Jabot, all of it was the top end stuff at that time in that area back then. My mom's couldn't really afford that. She could, but it was like, you know, she wasn't gonna spend $300 for a shirt.
Right.
My mother wasn't doing that. Not back then.
Yeah.
So that led to other things. We don't need to get into that.
You sure we don't need to get into it? Because that's what we do over here, man.
Yeah.
We like
I was wilding, man. I was in high school. I was like, nah, I can't. I said, Ma, I cannot not have some Ralph Lauren up in the school wearing Levi's all day. It's not gonna work.
It's not gonna
So
work.
I started taking a couple trips to the mall and all that goofy stuff. So.
Okay. Did you ever get caught up?
Yeah.
What age?
I was actually, we were doing that all through high school, and I got caught like my senior year. Yeah, senior year.
So let me ask you now you left.
That was it for me.
But you left the hood, right?
Yeah.
You go to suburbia.
Yeah.
And that's when you started. So who you end up, I guess, finding some guys to roll with? Or you just went solo?
Well, at first, one of my shout out to my best friend Walt. We're still friends to this day, over 30-something years. But he's well-educated, college degree, the whole shebang, got a good job and everything. But we had other friends that were involved in other things.
Okay.
And as you get older, you get smarter. You're like, okay, I got to leave him alone. I got to walk away from here. And then I was a really good athlete in basketball. So I made a decision to say, you know what, I'm not gonna do this stuff anymore, and left it alone.
Okay.
That was it.
Okay. Yeah. So let's talk about this basketball a little bit. You mentioned it a couple of times, man. When was that your number one? Did you play all sports? Or you
I played football first.
Okay.
I played football. My mother was a basketball coach as well.
Really?
My mother's a very good basketball player and basketball coach.
Okay.
So I was always into baseball. Okay. I know you like baseball too.
Absolutely.
Right? So I was a big fan of the 86 Mets. And my goal at that time was to be a pitcher or a shortstop. My mother was a basketball coach. She's like, nah, forget all this baseball. You playing basketball. So she pushed me towards basketball, and then I left baseball alone. I started playing football, and I liked football because I was fast. I played running back. Football was cool, but football was more of a contact sport.
Yeah, 100%.
So as you get older, the guys get bigger, faster, stronger.
100%.
Man, I got hit a couple times once I got to high school. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and play basketball. I'm going to bow out. You know, in basketball, if somebody hit you, that's a foul.
Right.
They hit you 5 times, they out the game.
Right,
Football, they trying to kill you. So
every down.
I stuck with basketball.
Yeah.
Stuck with basketball.
Yeah, we always laugh because there's the drill where football where two players line up, one side. I can't remember the name of it right now. But they roll in.
They call that the Nutcracker.
Well, they got everybody depending where you go, they got different names for it. And when they collide,
yeah, that's it. We call it the Nutcracker.
We used to say this is the number one drill that that brings in basketball players.
make you go sit in the bleachers for a minute. Yes, sir.
If you don't want that drill right there, you don't want to play the football.
Absolutely.
Too funny, man. So this basketball thing, man, you played it throughout high school.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good in basketball.
All right.
I went to prep school actually. Shout out to Stevie Franchise Francis. You familiar with him?
100%.
That's my guy. So we went to Milford
Academy. Houston Rockets.
Shout out to Steve Francis. We went to Milford Academy and prep school in Connecticut. We both stayed there for about a month and a half. We ended up having to leave.
Okay.
One of our loans fell through. He ended up going to Allegheny College in Maryland, junior college. I ended up going to Brookdale Community College in Jersey, which is another junior college, and we kind of lost connection. We were very, very close. But I remember this is the times before social media, before cell phones, things of that nature, and we just kind of lost contact with one another, that type of thing. That's the great thing about athletes and kids now. They can stay in contact forever.
Facts.
Right? So it's so funny because I recently got in contact with Steve Francis maybe a few months ago through Instagram.
Really?
And he hit me back immediately like, bro, where you been at? Like, what's going on? I'm like, bro. I said, yo, I just, I didn't. He said, bro, why you never came to the games or came out to the front and said, what's up? We'd have linked up, been linked up. And I said, bro, I just was proud of you. I watch you from afar. And that's the God's honest truth. I was never one of those people that just because he's a star, I'm gonna try to leech off him or I wasn't like that. I just watched him from afar and I was cool with just saying, yo, that's my man. That's my guy. So when people actually saw, I still be showing the DM like, Steve Francis. Shout out to Steve Francis. But yeah, I was a good ball player, man. And then a couple of years later, basketball didn't pan out, and I got into comedy.
So, just to segue real quick, so basketball didn't pan out because you start growing, or
well, I
played. Like, what do you think? What do you think it was?
It was cool. I played college ball, and then I just picked the wrong school to go to. And
Where'd you go?
I ended up going to King University.
Okay,
it's a Division III school in New Jersey.
Okay,
but I should have played at a higher level. Of course, that's a cliche. Most people that play ball are gonna say that. But it was like one of those situations where you decide, I'm gonna just stay local and stay home and still try to live this college dream. And the guy that was playing in front of me wasn't better than me. And I was just feeling like, I was in the backcourt with Steve Francis, and now you got me playing behind so-and-so. So I made a conscious decision. Shout out to Coach Hamburger. He used to be the assistant coach with PJ Carlissimo.
Oh, wow.
At Seton Hall back in the day.
Yeah.
When Seton Hall went to the championship, Hamburger was the assistant coach with him. He was the head coach at King. And I sat down, I had a candid conversation with him, and I just said, look, I appreciate the opportunity. I gave everything that I had. I think it was the middle of the season. I just said, yo, I'm going to just bow out. And I just became just a regular student in college and just stuck with that. And that was it.
Okay.
So it wasn't that personal with him. We discussed it. He said, you sure this is what you want to do? I said, listen, man, life is moving. I got to figure out what my next phase in life is going to be. Obviously, I'm not going pro from here. So at this point, so it's like, what's the next step? And the next step for me was law enforcement.
Really? So you say, wait, did you finish up that at school?
Almost. I got my associates, and then I went to Keene.
What'd you study there?
Criminal justice.
Okay.
So I'm probably right now probably about 35 credits shy of getting a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
So I bowed out of that. I stayed in school for a little while. Then eventually I left school, started working, things of that nature, and then I took the civil service exam.
Okay.
Got a 98 on that, and sheriff officers called me within 3 months of me taking that exam.
Okay.
And offered me a position. But I had started doing comedy 2 months in that time frame waiting for them to call me. True story. So give you a timeline. It's May. I take the civil service exam to become a law enforcement officer. In July, I start doing comedy. I get called for the position in September.
Really?
That's how the timeline was. So I'm young at the time, so I'm like, I got time. You got law enforcement. You got 35 years old, or whatever the case may be. Sometimes older, depending on what branch you're going in or whatever. And I never forget my mom's called me back. At that time, they mailed you the letter. There was no email and all stuff like that. They mailed you the letter and offered you the position. And I'll never forget my mom. I came in the house. She's like, oh, my God, you about to be a cop. You did it. I'm like, what are you talking about? But now I've already started doing comedy.
Okay.
And I passed on a position.
Really?
My mother went crazy.
Really?
My mother's old school. She's from down south. Mother, shout out to Albany, Georgia. Mother's from Albany, Georgia. And they believe in getting an education, getting a good job, so on and so forth. My mother didn't want to hear that shit. She was like, well, what you talking about, comedy? Who the fuck told you was funny? Like, nah, what you talking about? Like, she was, yo, Angelo, this is a true story. She was wailing. And she just didn't want to hear it. She was like, yo, like, you're going to turn down a job, security, a gun, benefits, all this good stuff to tell jokes? Like, what's wrong? And I was like, Ma, like, I got time. She didn't want to hear it. She was very upset. She was very upset for a couple of years. And when you first start doing comedy, things are a lot different now because you got internet stuff doing. But when I first started doing comedy, you had to like really get on stage and do guest spots and work your act and work your way up through the ranks. And I never forget, I would be on the phone with my best friend Walt, and I'm like, yo, things are getting better, man. I'm starting to get more time, and my bookings are starting to come. People want to book me and stuff like that. So my mother, she peeked in the room and she's like, they think you funny? Are they paying you yet? Are you getting any money? I'm like, Ma, come on. I'm on the phone. She's like, you a stupid motherfucker. This is how my mother, shout out to my mother, but I said exactly how she was coming. It's a goddamn fool. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
So, now let's step a little bit back from that story, right? So, what led you to comedy, though? Where did it come from when you thought, I'm going to go on stage? Like, what led you to the first time on stage?
So I'm not going to make these stories long and drawn out, but it's a couple of friends I got from high school, Duvall and Getty. Shout out to Duvall and Getty. They were older than me. But I was in school, prep school, with Steve Francis, and I'm coming back through Penn Station in New Jersey, going home, and I run into Duvall. And Duvall's like, yo, Ra, how you been? I'm like, I'm good. I'm in school. I'm balling. He's like, yo, you ever thought about doing comedy? And I'm like, nah, what are you talking about? He's like, bro, listen, my man got a room in Jersey City, New Jersey. It's hosted by Smokey. Shout out to Smokey Suarez. Said it's hosted by Smokey. He's like, yo, we want you to come do it. I'm like, oh yeah, give me a number, I'll call you. Right? I'm like, this is before cell phones. I'm like, yeah, give me a number, I'll call you. He's like, all right, cool, just hit me up. I got you. I never called him. Never called him. So to fast forward, a couple of years go by, I bumped into him again. But now I'm in the cross lanes with school and not knowing what I really want to do, and I bumped into him again. He's like, yo, bro, you never called me. Like, what's going on? 2 years went by. I'm like, bro, give me a number. I'm going to call you this time. And I actually called him. Him and Getty picked me up one day, and we took a ride to New York. They had a comedy club, the Uptown, at that time, which was another comedy club, the same name as you guys, up in New York. And he took me there, and we got there too late. And shout out to Mark Theobald. Mark Theobald was on stage. He's a writer for The Last OG with Tracy Morgan. He toured with Tracy Morgan. Mark Theobald was on stage, and Smokey was like, yo, you got here too late. You got to come out next week. And I was like, man, see, this is what I'm talking about. And I didn't do comedy for another 2 years after that.
Really?
Like, I went to do the show, but I got there too late, and the headline was already up. So he was like, yo, just come out next week. I got you. And shout out to Smokey. That's one of my close friends in the business to this day. And 2 years went by, and I didn't get on again.
Wow.
So it's a greater part to this story Fast forward a couple years later, I go to a comedy show. My girl Sylvia, I'm gonna tell you something. So I go to. It's a good story right here. So I go to a comedy show, my first ever comedy show. On the lineup, there's a young lady named Sherry Sinclair. She's not doing comedy anymore. She was the host. Let me tell you the lineup.
Okay.
Shout out to Ali Sadiq.
Wow.
Was the opening act. Ali is the opening act. He's the new comic. Rashid Thurman passed away. I don't even know Rashid.
Right, yeah, Rashid.
Y'all know Rashid. Rashid passed away.
Yeah.
Rest his soul.
Yeah.
Capone was the headliner. Bruh, it was the funniest show I'd ever seen. And I was like, yo, this shit is crazy. Like, I want to do this. And that's kind of what set the fire in me. And the next morning, I called my girl Sylvia. She had met Ali at the Bay Area competition back in the day, out in the Bay Area, out in Oakland, out that way. And she booked him on the show. So he was staying with her while he was in town doing the shows and so on and so forth. So I call her. I call the house phone, not a cell. And he picks up. I'm like, hello? I'm like, Sylvia there? I'm like, who's this? He's like, oh, this is Ali. Nah, she at work. I'm like, yo, you was on the show yesterday? He's like, oh, yeah. I said, yo, man, it's a pleasure. He was funny. Just having a regular conversation. So I said to him, I said, bro, I'm thinking about doing stand-up. People have been asking me to do it for years. And he was like, yo, you just got to do it. You just got to get on stage. Don't worry about what anybody else say. Just get on stage. And I talked to Ali for about an hour. I don't even know this guy. We talked for about an hour. And fast forward, I got into comedy, so on and so forth. And I'm jumping the gun, but let's just fast forward some years. In 2013, I'm doing a show here in Atlanta called Bounce Off the Chain. It was my second television appearance. And I'm waiting to get on the elevator. And who do I see at the elevator? Ali Sadiq. He's taping the show. I'm like, Ali, what's up, man? He's like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Like basically, who are you?
Right.
And I'm like, bro, let me explain who I am. You might know my girl Sylvia. Oh, he's like, oh, yeah. I said, yo, remember you got a phone call the next day after the show? And we talked for an hour. He looked at me and said, that was you? I said, bro, that was me. He said, well, what you doing now? I said, yo, I'm taping Bounce TV Off the Chain. And he said, man, look at God. He said, look how God worked, man. He said, I'm proud of you. That's what it is. So I didn't mean to stretch it, but that's a
cool.
real
That's good. That's a real story.
Yeah,
I like
man.
that.
So shout out to Ali Sadiq, man. You're doing big things, man.
Big things,
man. So
that's
it was
cool.
the opening act, though. See,
that's wild.
That's the greatest thing about comedy, man, where you never know, who's gonna out-jump who.
Sure.
Sure. It's just weird like that. So,
yeah. So what was your first time on stage then?
Oh man, it was a comedy club in Jersey at the time. They're no longer around, called Rascals.
Okay.
Comedy club, big comedy club back in the day. They went out of business some years ago. But I went to a bringer show. That was my first time on stage. Bringer shows, sometimes at comedy clubs, you got to bring a certain amount of people, and they allow you to get a few minutes on stage. And that's how I started. I went there to see another comedian that my best friend knew that was trying stand-up. So I'm sitting there just watching the show. I'm still not even thinking about doing stand-up. And I'm watching this guy on stage. I'm like, yo, if he can get some laughs, I know I can do this. And that's how I started. So I went to a guy named Bobby Gonzo. He was running the show. I said, hey, man, listen, I want to do comedy. He was like, listen, come back next week, bring 5 people, and I'll give you 5 or 6 minutes on stage. I said, no problem. My best friend, shout out to Walt, he did it with me too. We both tried stand-up at the same time. And that following week, it was on a Monday when I was at the show. The next Monday is when I performed. Over 250 people came out.
Wow.
No flyer, nothing, just word of mouth. Everybody heard that I was about to do stand-up, and everybody came to the show.
Really?
I can still hear Bobby Gonzo. Shout out to Bobby Gonzo. I could see him at the bottom of the steps. He had to walk down into the showroom. He's like, who you here to see? Let me guess. Rashaun! Like that. And that was my first, and to go back to the law enforcement story, I remember going to the bathroom and I prayed. I was raised in a Christian household, so I prayed and I asked God, I said, listen, I said, dear Lord, if this is for me and it works and I do well tonight, I'm going to push the law enforcement back, right? I remember I said, I took the test in May. I started doing comedy in July. I got the call for the job in September. But I said, whatever happens, if this works out, if I do get a call back from the law enforcement, I'm going to push it back and focus on comedy. And I went on stage tonight and did well, and that was it.
That was it. Never looked back.
True story.
Really?
Yes, sir.
That's dope. So when you went on stage the first time, was it freelance? Had you ever written down jokes? Like, how did you prepare for your first? Then you had 250 people there. Man.
It was packed, bro. I actually have wrote some jokes, man, and they're very simple jokes. You go to the club and you want to you go to the club and you want a glass of wine, a white Zinfandel. They want $24. I said, let me get a Sippendale. Like, it was like just quick one-liners and things of that nature, man, and just kind of improv and kind of still doing some of the things that I do now today as far as going off the head and being an improv-matic comic. But it worked. The people like me, but still, it was a lot of my friends and family that was there. So those are like kind of biased laughs. So the next, I want to tell you a story. So I don't mean to jump the gun. So I do this night, and I do well. This was on July 1st. It was a Monday. July 2nd was the next day, which leads me into Bob Sumner. Bob Sumner has a room in Jersey called Nuno's. It's hosted by Hamburger. Shout out to Hamburger. And my boy like, yo, you gotta go do Nuno's, and that's the hottest room in Jersey. Bob Sumner got it. It's on the third. Long story short, I'm not even gonna make that story long. I go there and I bomb. Because I'm thinking that being that I did well at Rascals in front of all my friends, I could go here and it's gonna be the same thing. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't. It's a longer version of that, but it taught me a lot of character. And one of my friends, one of my used to be friends, he's now on a podcast with Joe Buttons. His name is Ish, Antoine Marby, Ish. He's on a podcast with Joe. We fell out for some other reasons, man. God willing, we'll probably work it out at some point. But I always thank him, you know, because my career has been doing so much better comedy-wise, but it was him that I stayed in comedy. Because when I bombed, it shook me. It had me thinking, like, I'm about to go be a cop. Like, I can't, like, it was hard. You know what I mean? Because the bomb was bad. Motherfuckers was throwing drinks and everything. The shit was bad. The story is crazy. Like, it was bad, man. I'm gonna tell you the story. All right, but anyway, so I really wanted to quit, and he took me home. And the crazy part about it was I came to the show with somebody else. Remember I told you another guy said, yo, you got to do the spot Nuno's that Bob Sumner has. The guy that came with me, I bombed so bad, he didn't take me home.
Are you serious?
On my mother, he dipped off.
Wow.
One of my close friends who was Ish, I saw him. He just happened to come there. And Ish said, well, don't worry about it. I'm gonna take you home. You good? And we sat outside my mother's house, 75 Vaughan Drive, till about 6 o'clock in the morning, till the sun came up. And he talked to me and said, Rob, man, you can't quit. And I said, man, I'm done with this shit, man. He's like, bro, everybody go through this. Richard Pryor, Red Fox, all the greats got to go through the fire. You got to bomb. You got to learn. It's okay. You got to figure out how to get back. He's the reason that I'm still doing stand-up. He's the reason that so many good things happen for me comedically because of him. So it's unfortunate that we're not friends to this day.
Yeah,
over some nonsense. But, I mean, you know, one day maybe we'll figure it out. It is what it is. But.
Yeah. Did you tell your mom you bombed?
Did I say what?
Did you tell your mom you bombed?
She, to this day, she still don't care about comedy.
Really?
The only time my mother, she cares now. She show off now. But the only time my mom's, and I can be honest with you, when she finally let loose and chill is when she saw me on television. My first television appearance was with Kevin Hart on a TV show called One Mic Stand. It was a comic view in 2008. And my mother saw it on TV. And that's when she said, oh, this nigga got something. You know what I mean? That's when she was like, oh, you on TV with Kevin? I said, Mom, remember I told you I was going to L.A. to film this? She ain't want to hear nothing. So when she saw that, that's when she said, okay, you might have something going on. So you respect Kevin, you don't respect me. So that's how that kind of went. Man.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as far as your sets go, right? Especially, let's go back then. Were there anybody that you like studied under? Like, how did you learn to create a set? Like, the style and all that stuff was just always off the dome, or you kind of formatted what?
Rest of soul is a comedian by the name of Roz G. I don't know if you're familiar with Roz G.
Of course.
That's my aunt in comedy.
Okay.
I was her nephew in comedy. Very close to Roz.
Okay.
Roz is the one that we spent hours talking on the phone, building, coming up with material. I used to give her material. She would give me ideas, and she was the one that always was like, Rashaun, you gotta get a set. You gotta get a set. You gotta work on a set. And I said, Roz, I don't want to do what everybody else do. And if anybody who sees me perform, they know that I'm off the grid. I don't believe in going A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It's just not my style. I just believe in going off what I feel, going off what I'm thinking about, whatever's in my brain. That's what I talk about. I'm not saying I don't have jokes that are already formulated, but if you watch me on one show and I do this joke on an 8 o'clock show and you see the 10 o'clock, you might hear the same joke, but it's going to be told a different way.
Gotcha.
For me, it's a way of not getting bored.
Okay.
So I can't go on stage and just go ebony and every night. I can't do it. I'll get bored. I'm the type that'll be like ivory and that's just how I am. So
Gotcha.
It works for me. You know what I mean? And I think once you do that, I like to incorporate the audience. I improv. I think that touches people. When you touch people, you put them in a position where they say, "Man, I felt that," or "Man, I've been through that." They connect with you. And that once I got you like that, it's over.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Gotcha. So your first TV appearance you just brought up.
Yeah.
How did you get the appearance, number one, and what was it like as far as how were you feeling, prior to and afterwards?
You asked some good questions, man. Sure we ain't do this before, y'all. So my first television appearance, man, shout out to Roz G. She shout out to Bob Sumner. She basically told Bob, and we'll get to that later, she basically told Bob, like, yo, this is one of the funniest cats I've ever been around. You gotta put him on. And Bob already knew who I was in a sense, but he gave me a shot and put me on the show. And the craziest thing about the show, it was an amazing experience in LA. Amazing working with Kevin and all that good stuff. But here's the craziest part about when you ask me how was it for me, it was rough. Let me tell you why. But I have been doing comedy for enough years to make it through. And I'm going to tell you why it was rough. Rest in peace to comedian Kool-Aid. Right?
Yeah.
True story, man. So I'm backstage. The way it was, you had to walk up these steps and get to the top, and it's like a silhouette. And then when Kevin called your name, you would come down the steps onto the stage. Bruh. I'm in the back waiting to go on stage, and Kool-Aid is on stage, flipping the theater, the sound stage upside down.
Yeah.
The stage manager is standing next to me, and I'm back there literally about to hyperventilate. Because I'm nervous, my first television, but I'm like, trying to breathe, and she's like, calm down, you're going to do your thing, don't worry about it, just ride off his energy. And I never forget he had a joke. If anybody knows Kool-Aid, he had a joke where he did like a gay character or something like that. In the callback, he kept saying, we're not going to do this. And he kept using it over and over. He kept, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do it. And the whole sound studio, boom, boom, going crazy. And now I got to go up and follow him.
Right.
Now, you've been in the comedy business for years. You know, any comedian here, a comedian going crazy, they already like, the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Get him off the stage. Right. You already know you got to follow this. And I went on stage, and I did well. I didn't do as good as I wanted, but I did well. But it was definitely a tough experience for your first television appearance to have to follow a guy that has the whole room shaking, and then again standing on in front of you. Yeah. So, but it worked out pretty well.
Okay, that's dope. So let's talk about your relationship with Bob Sumner, man.
Yeah. Shout out to Bob.
Yeah. What was your first meeting like with him, and how'd it go from there?
Bob and I have been working together. You know, Bob is really from Roselle, New Jersey. I'm from East Orange, so we're like 20 minutes out. Always showed me a lot of love. Always had me host his shows. Of course, like I told you, I had my first television appearance with him. But I would say in the last 4 years, we've grown very, very close. Okay. I'm signed to him now. He has a team of young comics that he's picked from all around the country that he feel are the next ones to go to the next level, called the Rising Stars of Comedy. And I'm under his moniker, the Laugh Mob. So to give people a little history of who Bob is the executive producer and talent coordinator for Def Comedy Jam. So all of these greats that you know, from Bernie Mac to Chris Tucker to Tracy Morgan to Bill Bellamy, I mean, to J.B. Smooth to Lavelle Crawford to Faison Love, I mean, the list goes on and on. I can name names all day long. Samoa, Earthquake. All of these guys were on Def Jam that he put on the show. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, just because somebody put you on the show, that don't mean nothing. Stop. If I put you on a groundbreaking TV show, Def Jam was groundbreaking. It was the biggest thing since In Living Color.
Facts.
Right? Everyone did Def Jam, from Chris Rock to Jamie Foxx to Queen Latifah to Ed Lover. Everyone wanted to touch the Def Jam stage. From Dave Chappelle, the list goes on and on. D.L. Hewley, you want me to keep going? Steve Harvey. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
You know, and you know this is the gentleman we're talking about who I'm actually working with now. We're doing a bunch of different things. He has a bunch of different things that he's working on as well, and I'm just blessed to be a part of it, man. You know, his idea is Rashaun Reese is one of the funniest comics in the country, and I want to make you a household name. So, you know, I'm appreciative of that, because in this business it's hard, bro. You know, you don't have anyone of color that is really out here helping young comics get on television. I just shot my half-hour special here in Atlanta a couple of months ago with Bob as well, entitled The Reese Project, man. I mean, who else is doing that? Who else is giving young comics an opportunity to shoot a half-hour special and then get it picked up on a network? Right. You know, it's no other guy going into the trenches, going to see comedians in areas of some bar or some lounge that no one else is going to see. No agent. There's nobody from out there anywhere is going to go and handpick you and say, hey, I want to try to get you on this TV show. And it's not just the people of old. So you would think it's just people from Def Jam, because a lot of people say that, oh, that was years ago. No, it's more than that. You know what I mean? He put Tiffany Haddish on Def Jam in 04, 05. Right. First. That's all right? Lil Rel Harry. I was doing the show, give you a little history. Before I actually signed with Bob and all that, I was doing a theater show at the NJ Pack in New Jersey, 3,500 seater. And he walks in with a gentleman. And I don't know the gentleman. He doesn't have a beard. And Bob says, hey, Rashaun, man, this is my guy, Carlos Miller. I'm like, hey, Carlos, what's up, man? How you doing? I'm sure you guys know who Carlos Miller is.
Yeah, you definitely know.
So this man has the ability to see greatness in you when you don't see it in yourself. Yeah. You know, I just wish a lot more people would recognize him and give him his flowers, and that's what I do. Anytime I'm on a microphone or I'm in a position, I'm going to give him his flowers. You know, and just like I give you your flowers too. Big shout out to Angelo, of course, and I don't mean to shift gears, but you know, first and foremost, shout out to TK Kirkland too.
Absolutely.
Angelo and I met. You know, it's so funny because if you look at people online, they're always laughing. I know I'm shifting gears real quick, and I tend to do that. I got ADD. I apologize. But this is a good transition here. When you look online with TK, everybody says TK knows everybody. TK hooks everybody up. He does.
He does.
He does. I'm here to tell you right now, my relationship with Angelo, and Angelo has helped me out in many ways. We don't got to discuss this. I met him through TK Kirkland. Just a phone call.
That's right.
Hey, TK. Hey, Angelo. It's TK. You know, I got a guy, Rashaun Reese. I believe he's one of the funniest cats. You should bring him to your club. That was it.
That was it.
Angelo put me on, gave me a shot. Said, all right, let's see what's cracking with him. He let me do what I did. Let me do what I do. This is going on 8 years now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So another call that TK made, he made a call to, I think it was Gary, the book Off the Chain. That was my second television appearance. He called him and got me on TV. Second television appearance because of TK. So shout out to TK.
No doubt.
And I always show love to Angelo because I know, and we talked about this before. One thing about Atlanta, it's a little different down here. You guys don't have snow blowers down this month. Right? Y'all don't have salt trucks and shit down here. So a few years ago, it might have been 4 years ago, the whole the city shut down because y'all had a half an inch of snow.
Yeah.
Remember that? The whole
Absolutely.
city shut down. It was,
down.
I think it was like 19 degrees, and it was black ice everywhere, and the whole city went crazy. We're shutting the city down and all this other shit. And I happened to be here that weekend.
Right.
And we were supposed to do, I think, 5 shows, and I think we did 1. And the one show we did may have been 4 people there. And a lot of people don't know as comedians, man, we need this money. Don't let no comedian fool like they don't need this money, especially if you ain't really got to the point where you big and all this other stuff. We need this money. This money's taking care of bills and everything else. And we did 1 show, man. We might have about 4 or 5 people in there, and Angelo paid me all my money. And I always tell you that, man. I love you for that, man, because believe me, man, I needed that money. You know what I mean? Because you didn't have to. But he's a man of his word, and anybody would even think of saying something crazy about Uptown Comedy Corner, they crazy. Because I've been doing comedy a long time, and not too many people are going to pay you all of your money, not pull you to the side and say, can you take it short? Can you take this? Nah. Cut the check. This for you. Don't worry about it, man. We'll work it out on the next time. So I appreciate you for that, brother, and I always tell you that, man. That's all love.
That's what's up, brother.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, man. You came in doing comedy at a little earlier than this current generation, right? So you were prior to this social media spurge.
Yeah.
How have you adjusted? How do you feel about the social media, and how have you adjusted to it?
To be honest with you, it hasn't been really an adjustment. I think for the true stand up.
Okay.
I think it has been an adjustment in a sense where you got to deal with it because they're here. They're taking up space, and I don't mean that in a negative way. They're coming in on a technical side, in a sense. I mean, technology changes, it advances, and they found a way to work their way in. That's cool. I don't have a problem with it. Only thing I have a problem with is if you're not putting the work in to really learn the craft, and that's where the issue comes in at. If you're gonna listen, I did sales. I was a salesman and started doing comedy. So that, to me, that's no different than what they're doing. Whatever it is they were doing and they get involved in comedy, it's okay. Just learn the craft properly and take the right steps and put the right time in. A lot of them don't do it.
Right.
They kind of just learn on the cuff and they just kind of figure it out. And I guess that's cool in a sense too. But to the comedian like myself who has put the work in, shout out to my brother K-Dub. He just popped in my mind. Me and Dub go back then in 20 years. You know what I mean? So I remember Dub coming in young. Dub came in 20, 21 years old, something like that. And I watch him put the work in. And he knows me very well. I put the work in as well. So I think for the real stand-up comic, and I hate to say the real stand-up comic, but I have to say that because we put the work in. We know what it is. We know the sacrifice. I watched Lunell's special. Go watch Lunell's special on Netflix. Hilarious special, man. Yeah. Another comedian that put the work in. You know what I mean? And when I watched that special, I loved it, man. At the end of it, if you watch that special, she shows pictures of her grind. The things that she went through, her holding her child and things that she went through. And she talked about all the ups and downs of what we go through in the business. And I think the internet is cool, but they don't really know the grind and what it took to get to where we've gotten. I saw a comedian post the other day. It upset me. Oh, I think we should get rid of the Def Jam and the BET credits when we're introducing comedians and start saying more about YouTube and whatever.
Somebody said that?
Yeah, man, bro. But this is a guy that barely gets booked, so it really doesn't matter. But he don't get booked like that. Like he don't work nowhere. But the point is, and I'm not knocking him for that, but I just think that's crazy. Like, bro, you cannot take away anyone's TV credits, man. I mean, there was a time when getting on television was where it's at. Like, it took a lot of work to get that opportunity. You know what I mean? And if you really look at, when you talk about the internet comedian, there's a lot of internet comedians that are doing well. Shout out to DC Young Fly. I see Desi Banks doing his numbers. I see Country Wayne moving and grooving. Jess Hilarious doing what they're doing. They're putting the work in. But when you look at my real stand-up comics, they're getting the real creditable work if you think about it. Because when you look at TV shows, you look at film, and you look at what's going on, shout out to D. Ray Davis on Snowfall. Shout out to Lil Rel Howery, right? So when you think everybody's so big on these internet comics, it's cool. I get it. I know technology and times are changing. But when you look at the business in an entirety, you look at television and film and radio, bro, they still sticking with the real stand-up comic.
Right.
The internet influencers gonna make the money because they got the followers. So everyone's gonna rock with you at some point because you got the numbers to kind of, they can appeal to your following. That's cool. So they may give you a commercial. They might book you at the comedy clubs. You're gonna sell a place out and everybody can make the money. But Lil Rel's getting the feature films.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
See what I'm saying? D-Ray and them is getting on real scripted series. I'm not saying none of them are not working on any of this in that matter, but I'm just telling you that the real stand-up comedian is still a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean? And when I look at the internet and I look at all that stuff, I'm watching all that stuff being monetized. I got friends, I don't want to name any names as far as the ones that have tiered off. And what I mean by that is they got 300,000-400,000 followers, and they were here and they were selling out, and now they're doing this. Because it's not real creditable work in a sense. I mean, none of that's going to ever win when it comes to television, film, or top-notch radio. It's not going to stand. It's only going to move but a certain amount of time. And I get in debates about this all the time, but I said, think about it, man. You got to look and watch the business. If you watch the business, you'll see that everybody that's really getting the opportunities are real stand-up comics. You got a few that's moving. Shout out to DC. He doing what he do. Like I said, shout out to Country Wayne. He doing what he do. But in a totality of comedians, the ones that are really still out here working and getting that real work are stand-up comics that are working. I'm telling you.
That's a good point.
Instagram and social media are monetizing everything. They're not letting anyone go viral anymore. Those days is over. Desi Banks is coming up the rear.
Yeah, they're controlling that big time.
Bro, and I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you like this. I had a conversation earlier, and I said, you do know that the internet comedian or the internet influence is more so on the black side. It's on the black side. And we know that black folks, I love my black folks, but we ride waves. And when the wave get low, we step off.
Sure.
It is what it is. I'm telling you.
That's
so
facts.
when you and when you look at these internet influencers, if they were that good and it's just that serious, why is SNL not casting anyone from yet? Right? When you look at the mainstream and you say, okay, cool, you got all the followers, y'all doing that third, Lorne Michaels would have been hired you.
Good point.
Why is he not? Because is the talent really there? It's okay. Anybody can grab a phone, bro.
Right.
And do what they do and then cut it off and then redo it. What I do for a living, what Dub or so on and so forth, TK do for a living, ain't no cut off.
Right.
It's right here. You can't reinvent the wheel. Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, Red Fox, Martin Lawrence, the list can go on and on. You learn your timing. You learn your delivery. You learn your cadence, everything. You develop who you are on that stage. So I'm not knocking the internet. It's cool. Do what you do. I'm a dog. Anybody see me perform, I had a great weekend this weekend. Anybody tell you that was here, I'm a dog. You know what I mean? And I get that because I put the time and the work in on that stage. So, yeah, the internet's a great tool. I plan on using it. I plan on starting a podcast. But when you really think about it, even with the podcast situation, it's so oversaturated. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like whoever did it first eats, right? So everybody else kind of just fills in the lane.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Joe Budden's podcast. Shout out to $1 Million Worth of Game. These guys got on it quick. And then it's moving quicker for them than a lot of other people because it's so oversaturated. And I kind of feel like that with the internet, it's allowing everyone to flood the art. It's flooding the business, and it's actually dumbing down the business, man, in a way that people won't realize until years from now.
Gotcha.
Because now you've let people know that there's money in this, right? 10 years ago or 15 years ago, no one knew that how much money comedians are really making. You look now, you got Nene Leakes on tour. You had Wendy Williams was doing a tour. You got Charlie Sheen doing comedy tours because they're saying, wait a minute, how much money can we make off this?
Right.
Because they have the following. But in the same breath, it hurts the art form. It kills us in the end because now, what does it do? It dumbs down the audience because now the audience goes to these shows thinking that this guy they saw online is going to be this hilarious. And some of them are. But some of them, you like this.
Right.
I want money back. Like, what's going on? Or they're writing on those little notes to give the artist, say, don't book this person again. So I say this to say, man, it's a tool, and I think everyone should use it to the best of their advantage. But I do believe the industry is going to come back to where it's supposed to be and where it originally started. You want to get the greats. You want to find that great Richard Pryor. You want to find that great Eddie Murphy. I just don't believe you're going to find that on a screen or somebody just keep cutting the phone on and off. I think you're going to come in these comedy clubs like this and see a guy that's working and seeing him touch people's souls and get connected with people, and that's the guy that you want to formulate that sitcom around, formulate that series around. That's just what
that's a good point. That's a great point. So, Rashaun, what is it that Rashaun Reese wants to do in this industry that he hasn't accomplished yet? Like, what's your future goals? What you want to touch?
Bro, that's a great question too, man. I mean, I've been doing stand-up a long time. I just want to get to a point where, to be honest with you, everybody gets into this comedy game for different reasons. I learned that from Talent. Shout out to Talent out of New York. Talent told me years ago, he said, everyone gets into comedy with different goals, right? And he asked me when I was a young comic, what's your goal? Mm-hmm. For me, bro, I just love being on stage and being a good stand-up, but I know you have to do something to get the following to the point where you can actually tour and do what I'm saying doing as far as touring. And how can I put this? In order to get to a point where you can tour different comedy clubs and theaters around the country, you have to find something that's going to build that following. Right. So that's what I'm currently working with Bob right now. He got a bunch of different things going on I can't really speak upon right now. That's going to help get my face and my name out there to get to that point. You know what I mean? Because that's all I really want to do. I really just want to tour, man. I just love being on stage. I love traveling. I love meeting the people. I'm also a writer, man, so I got a couple of sitcom ideas. I got a game show I wrote. I got a bunch of different things that I've put in order. That's what I want to do, too. I'm more of a behind-the-scenes guy, so I'm cool with writing for this person and that person, putting them in the front, letting them make the money, and I just sit back and count the checks. I'm cool with that. I'm good with that, and just continue to be able to tour and perform at comedy clubs and theaters and so on and so forth. But that's really all I really want to do, man. I just want to make people laugh. I'm good with that. Okay. You know what I mean? That's really pushing my goals to be able to tour comfortably and sell out wherever I go. So
gotcha.
Just trying to find that right show or that right TV show, whatever it may be, to build that following. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. That's what's up. Yeah. So, last question, man. I was in my conversations off with a top 5. Mm-hmm. We talked right before the show, man, that, I had the privilege of meeting my GOAT, LL Cool J, this past weekend.
Shout out to LL. That's one of my goats, too.
So, give me your top 5 rappers of all time.
Top 5 rappers?
Top 5 rappers of all time. Rashaun Reese's top 5 rappers of all time.
Man. That's a good question. I'm just going through my head right now.
Yeah, gotcha.
LL Cool J is definitely in my top 5. I told you that already. Mm-hmm. LL Cool J, Biggie, Big Daddy Kane, Tupac.
Okay.
Where we at?
That's 4. All right, that's 3 or 4. LL, Big Daddy, Tupac, Biggie. That's 4.
That's 4. Last one, I don't think I'm trying to think. Who would I say, man? I'm gonna go with DMX.
DMX. All right.
So most people ask me, they say, "Why you in the top 5? You don't have Nas, you don't have Jay in there." I just, for me, coming up, LL was everything. Big Daddy Kane was everything. He was the first chocolate motherfucker that was going crazy. Lyrically, an animal. You already know he was an animal. I mean, it was really LL and Big Daddy Kane that was out here moving. And Big was just different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Big was just, he was just different, man. I remember hearing his tape in my man car. Shout out to Pete the Rabbit, man. We call him Pete. We call him Pete the Rabbit. I'm in the car with him, and he's like, "Yo, you heard this cat named Biggie?" I'm like, "Nah." I'm like, "Who's that? Notorious B.I.G." He popped the tape, and it was a black tape. First side was juicy. The other side was unbelievable.
Right.
I remember sitting in the car like, "Yo, who is this man?" And I fell in love with him from the gate. I already knew he was just different.
Yeah.
I love Jay too. I mean, he in my top 10. Eminem.
Yeah, I feel top 5. Jay's he's not my top 5 either. Yeah. I'll maybe
Who's
top
yours?
10.
I gotta hear this.
Want to hear mine?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I'm very curious of your top 5.
All right. Ice Cube.
Okay.
Tupac. MC Light,
Cappuccino. Yeah.
KRS-One, and then the GOAT, LL Cool J.
Man, you went KRS-One on.
KRS-One, hey, that's my guy, man.
I mean,
I got to meet him a few months back too, man.
Really?
Oh man.
Wow. I mean, this is, I always tell people, man, the blessing of being at the age that we are. I got a chance, and you got a chance to live through hip hop from the beginning till now. I always tell people, man, our era was better than this era. Like, nah, it's not that. It's just that you got to understand, we were there to watch hip hop grow and watch it mature into some of its nonsense now.
Infancy to.
But to watch that 80s to that, like to the mid 90s was insane.
Insane.
I mean, it was insane. So
absolutely.
And to be honest with you, my favorite era of hip hop, mine, is the 80s.
80s.
My favorite era of hip hop.
Run DMC.
Bruh.
Beastie Boys. I
Bruh.
mean, the list goes, like you said earlier, the list can go on and on and on, man. These guys.
I mean, I'm going deep. X-Clan, Stetson Sonic.
It's,
I mean, it was
what?
different. It was. I'm talking about Biz Markie, rest his soul.
Absolutely.
It was just a different time. You know
Different
what I mean?
time.
So to see it, progress that way, and we were able to see it from when it started, bro. I mean, if you go further back, even watching the Fat Boys and Curtis Blow, it's crazy. Like, bro,
Right.
man, it was different. Different. So
Different.
Yeah. So it's all love.
Hey man, it's been a great conversation with Sean, man. Learn a lot more about you tonight, man. After all these years, man, this was dope, brother. So listen, man, sit down at Uptown, man, with my man Rashaun Reese, and we out.
Appreciate it. Yeah, my man.